Yo.
What up, though?
I got to talk. I got to tell what I feel. I got to talk about my life as I see it.
All right, then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat.
Street Beat with
Tony.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B. Yeah, we have got a phenomenal show for you. We're going to be remembering Bloody Sunday. We're going to pause, we're going to remember, and we're going to reflect. This program is dedicated to the memory of Bloody Sunday, the brutal attack on peaceful demonstrators on the Edmonds-Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, a moment that shocked the conscience of the nation and helped change the course of American history. We are going to honor the courage of those who marched, knowing the danger, and lift up the legacy of John Lewis, a young man at the time, whose skull was cracked, but whose spirit never was. Congressman Lewis showed us that good trouble is not just history, it is a responsibility. We're going to connect that history to the present because the struggle for voting rights, justice, and dignity did not end on that bridge. Joining me for this important conversation are our respected voices and longtime leaders in this community. And we'll just start bringing them on. Mr. Eddie Rye Jr. Mr. Rye, how are you, sir?
Just fine. I have some music I'm trying to get rid of.
And Mr. Hayward Evans.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good seeing you, and thank you for hosting us, Tony.
All right, and Mr. Claude Perfect. Claude, how are you, sir? I don't know if we have your audio or not. Is that? I think you're muted. I just want to make sure we.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Also joining us on the program, is anybody else in? Also joining us on the program a little bit later will be Reverend Dr. Linda Smith and Carolyn Riley Payne. As soon as, there's Carolyn Riley Payne right there. Carolyn, how are you?
I'm good, Tony. How are you?
Fantastic. Fantastic. And let's see, can we put the P in her name?
Oh.
Okay. And then also Dr. Linda Smith. Dr. Linda Smith, are you with us? Well, when Dr. Smith joins, we'll make sure to get Dr. Smith on as well. So if you're you heard me talk a little bit about Bloody Sunday and what it was. I want to go into more detail. And Mr. Rye, I'm going to start with you. First of all, why is it important that we remember this day? And why don't you give us a little history of what preceded this march across the Edmonds-Pettus Bridge? Oh, gone. Okay. Mr. Evans.
Yes.
I will pose that question to you. Mr. Rye's back with us.
Yeah. We had a technical issue and I resolved it. So thank you much.
Okay. Why don't we start with just some information on what was preceding? Can you take us back to that period of time? Again, we're at a point here where for a lot of folks, they don't remember that. It's not anywhere to get the information. You can't find it easily. It's not taught in schools. What are we talking about when we talk about Bloody Sunday, March 7th, and the Edmonds-Pettus Bridge? What were the series of events that unfolded surrounding that event?
Well, I'll go first, and then we can. I don't have no no camera. Okay. Anyway, and that was a struggle for voting rights, and that was the main objective of this whole march, because I think there were less than 300 people in Selma, Alabama, who were registered to vote out of about 10 or 12,000. So the whole issue was to promote voting rights and stand up for voting rights.
Okay. And Mr. Evans, would you like to chime on that from your perspective? What do you remember? What do you call about the events leading up to Bloody Sunday, March 7th?
Yeah, I'm going to go back. I was like 13 years old, 12 and a half, and in middle school, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And this comes up in our civics class. We had the social studies class, what it was called then. And we're up here looking at this and just looking at the expressions on the people's faces. I was shocked. Everybody there was shocked when you had 600 peaceful demonstrators. And just like Eddie pointed out, all they wanted was the fundamental right to vote. Very fundamental. And to the extent that they're going across the bridge, then they're attacked by the police, by the Alabama state troopers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous what took place. And what gets me is the bridge, the Edmund Pettus Bridge is named after a Confederate general. If you're in the Confederacy fighting against the United States, you're a traitor. And Bridge is named after a traitor who was also a leader in the local Ku Klux Klan. And interestingly, he was a senator as a Democrat. So that speaks to the Dixiecrats, and I think people need to understand the party affiliations and why they turned to become Republicans.
And Mr. Burfict, I want to bring you in on this conversation as well. Again, your perspective on the history of this day, March 7th, Bloody Sunday. Again, for a lot of folks, they may not even know what it is that we are remembering and why we're remembering it. Can you give me your perspective on that day from again, where were you? What was happening?
Well, March 7th, 1965, I was in Nang, Vietnam, fighting a war that we had, we should not have been there. But I can say this, prior to March 7th, back in 1957, see, this is something that was going on in the South, that was happening in the South, voter registration. This is why it's so important today. Back in 1957, I was in 10th grade, a high school kid. My uncle, Percy Murphy Griffin, and attorney Earl Amity organized the people in New Orleans and got a group of high school and college kids together to go and teach our people how to take the literacy test in order for them to be able to vote. We did that and got quite a few African American, now Black folks, are able to educated well enough so that they will be able to vote, which made an impact. This was something that was indicative of the South. Black folks, African Americans, back then had to go through, and excuse my colloquial term, but hell, in order to have that franchise right to vote. I can go on. I'm not right now.
And Ms. Payne, I would like to bring you in on this conversation as well. Can you take us back to that time period for you, March 7th, where you were, what you were feeling, what led up to it, and how you understood the events of the day? Or maybe you did not understand what was going on that particular occasion.
Well, I was in, I think, the 9th grade, and we were taught, we were part of the NAACP youth group. So we had a little bit of understanding about why they were doing it. But to be honest with you, to the full impact of what they were doing, we didn't understand it. We were just doing it because we were told, okay, you know what? we need to get out. We need to do this. We need to march. They're going to be doing it. It's important, etc. But being in the youth council of the NAACP, we had people trying to get us to understand the full impact and what that meant. So they were trying to teach us, and not trying, they actually was teaching us and taught us what it meant, the importance of it, and the importance of making sure that our parents understood, because not all people wanted to get out. That was not necessarily the thing to do. So I don't know that I had the full impact of what it meant just listening to it until I saw it happening. And then I could relate it to what we were going through in North Carolina at that time.
And do we have Dr. Smith?
No camera or mic right now.
No camera or mic right now. Okay. What I would like to do at this point, for those of you who are saying, okay, well, what is this about? What was going on here? Because we do live in a tumultuous time right now in the state of affairs in this world. And you do have people who are marching, people who are protesting. This is not something that we're unfamiliar with in that regard. But I'd like to show a video, if we could, of exactly what was taking place that day, just to add some context to what we're talking here about today. Are we ready to do that?
Sunday, 55 years ago, it was a bridge too far, a climb too steep for John Lewis and the other peaceful marchers who were caught in a vice of police brutality. But on this Sunday, yesterday, the road was clear for John Lewis. Atop a horse-drawn caisson, he was carried across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, completing the journey that symbolized who he was. He embraced nonviolence, but he didn't flinch from the blows that would come either. By the time he suffered that vicious beatdown in Selma, he had already faced attacks and ridicule. But it was that bridge, the way to Montgomery to petition for voting rights, and that awful Sunday that so clearly defined the tenacity and courage that was John Lewis. A moment that shamed America, framed the life of a peaceful warrior for justice.
We came here to protest an unjust system of denying blacks the right to vote. And we met people who did not want us here. They called us troublemakers. We walked to the apex of this bridge. We stopped and realized we could not turn back. And when we look ahead, we saw a sea of blue. Alabama state troopers. History reminds us that on March 7, 1965, we loved America so dearly. We were ready to die for her.
His final crossing, spanning the tenterhooks of time and history. ANBC.
Reverend Dr. Linda Smith, thank you for joining us. I talked to each of our other guests and I asked them to share with us their thoughts on where they were, what was going on with you at that particular time, and would you share with us your perspective on that day that eventually became known as Bloody Sunday. Dr. Smith, are you here?
Yes, I am. And first of all, thank you for having me this morning. And I was in Arkansas, and Arkansas was one of those deep racist states where blacks were denied many rights, including votes. I was actually a teenager at the time, and we didn't have, get a lot of information about voting rights. I went to school where pages were torn out of books and niggers were written, the word nigger, I'm sorry, maybe I should have said the N word, was written in the books. Just really very, very difficult situation. So when the voting rights came about, we were in front of a little black and white TV because we weren't exposed to much of the things. We hadn't heard a lot about voting because it was being suppressed. And during that time, it was really like just a light that came on, a hope, just to see what was happening across the country. And it really gave not only myself, but my family and those around us a lot of hope that there was light at at the end of the tunnel. And so voting at that point for me and those around me became one of the most important things that we could do as people. And as a pastor, one of the things that I tell my congregation that besides the gift of salvation, which is the greatest gift we all can receive, that the greatest power and right we have as people is voting. So I just think that one of the important things that I bring out of all of this over the years is education is most important, knowing where we came from. And the reality, if it had it not been for the Black vote, we would not have civil rights advancements as we have today, housing, education, healthcare, and all of those entities that we enjoy now, and the ones that are being suppressed. And so I'll end it by saying this, is that I'm often telling people, well, if those who are in power did not see the power of voting, they would not be trying to undermine it. So I just think I really appreciate these kind of conversations, but also for us to stay focused and keep voting, because it's the greatest power that we have here on earth.
Thank you so much. What an incredible group of iconic folks who lived through this period of time that we're talking about. Pastor Smith, Dr. Smith, I want to stay with you here for a second. John Lewis was only 25 years old when he helped lead that march. What does his courage teach us about the role of young people in movements or justice that they can learn from today?
Oh my, that's one of the messages I've been preaching in the last 2 or 3 years, is trying to get our young people galvanized and energized around social justice issues in the political system. We need that energy. We need that spark. We need that fire. We need that power. And so I think what John Lewis, the Honorable John Lewis, says to us today is that young people are really our future. They're the light that's going to lead us into even brighter things. So the more that we can educate our young people and get them to understand the power that they possess in terms of changing this system and this culture that we live in, the greater that we will be. So I see myself as an elder, and my job as an elder is to encourage them and lift them up and to support them. And as those who are on our panel who have just, been amazing in our community, where I've drawn inspiration from them, I'm hoping that myself as an elder, as a leader in the community, continue to help young people to see the value and the power of voting. Don't give up our life. If we give up voting, we're giving up our right to live.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Now, I've got some more questions. Again, I've got an iconic group of civil rights leaders here with me. So before I go on, and I do have a lot of questions, but does anyone else want to respond to that particular question about John Lewis being 25 and what young folks today can learn from the courage that he had to face what we just saw on that film? And if I think Dr. Smith did a great job of explaining, but does anybody else want to chime in on that?
Yeah, Tony B., I would like to make a comment. You might recall that when they were arresting folks, a lot of the people, the parents could not be arrested, they'd lose their jobs. But Bull Connor had junior high school, and grade school kids, and they ran out of space in the jail, and so they put them on the fairgrounds. So it's, we went through it. And I think by having a program like this, and hopefully the people who have kids, children, young adults, if they would share this, because we're in the same battle right now. Our rights are under attack. That's why it's so important to have this program today, because right now our rights, voting rights, are under attack. They're trying to create all kind of obstacles, and you see it even just recently with Dallas County. So I would say that no, we really have to be encouraged. We also have to be out there and trying to inform people. And once again, Rainier Avenue Radio is doing a good job of doing that. So thank you.
Okay, I want to give everybody a chance to answer some of these questions that we have. We're talking about Bloody Sunday, March 7th, 1965, a day that changed the course of American history. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones. And so the images that were shown from this violent attack on peaceful protesters changed the course of America. And I guess I'll just start with you, Mr. Perfect, and then anybody else can chime in on this as well. But how did seeing peaceful demonstrators brutalized by law enforcement shape the political consciousness of Black America at that moment?
Well, Tony, as I indicated previously, I grew up in that era where we demonstrated, we had rallies. I was a part of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, and SCLC as well, and NCC. And these were organizations that did a lot of protesting, nonviolent protesting. I know that we did a lot of, with CORE, we did a lot of sit-ins and demonstrations at your Woolworths and McCrory's. You know, we felt like if our parents could shop, but cannot sit at the counters to eat. And we also did a lot of demonstrations as far as the voting rights were concerned. These were things that were happening back in the late 50s, 60s, and the various demonstrations to bring about a change in this country. And everything, and we followed Martin Luther King's philosophy, non-violent. Everything we did was non-violent. Now, I know I have been bitten by dogs. I have been thrown in jail between 14 and 16 times for demonstrating. I've been hosed on. I was hit on the left side of my head with a police billet and fractured the left side of my skull. These are things that we did to bring about a change in this country, to make sure that civil rights, we built upon the civil rights in this country. So there were things that we did back then, non-violently, to make a change for not just African Americans, but for everybody in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Perfect. Again, my question is, just seeing peaceful demonstrators brutalized by law enforcement like that, if you can, since y'all were young and you were at that time, would anyone else like to answer that question about how that shaped the political consciousness of Black America at that time?
Tony B, what happened is that Bloody Sunday March was broadcast around the world, and it embarrassed the United States of America. And that's what led to us getting out. That was March of 65, March 7, 65. By July or August of 65, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act. And it was for African Americans Voting Rights Act, but when we do something, everybody else is included anyway. So I think it's real significant to understand the significance of the 65 March and what happened on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. While a lot of people were beat up and abused, it did convince the president and the Congress to sign a Voting Rights Act of 1965. I want to just include that.
Ms. Payne, did you want to comment? I think you were about to speak.
Yes, I did. I just wanted to talk about how it framed the consciousness of America. And Eddie just spoke to that. But I think it gave America, in addition to being ashamed, it made it real, because I think all communities was having some form of demonstrations and people getting hit and all those kinds of things. And it gave me PTSD. But with the things that I was doing, But when you saw it, the brutality of it all, it shook your consciousness. And I think that's why the Voters' Right Act was signed. Everybody got upset. We were embarrassed, like Eddie said, because of the brutality of it. And I think that one of the things that is for me now is trying to get young people to understand that, trying to get people to really understand why it happened in the first place. And we think we should know that and how it felt, because I think that they're not connected. They can't connect to it. We could connect to it because I lived in North Carolina, in Durham, and so we could connect to what was happening. Today they don't see that connection, and I think that it made all of America, those liberals, and it embarrassed those that got caught doing it. And I think that that's what made it the nonviolence of, and to stay nonviolent, to stay in that mode when that is happening to you, showed a different kind of commitment and a different kind of courage.
And Mr. Evans, I want to bring you in on this conversation too. I want to hear as many voices as possible. I do have more questions, but again,
Could I add something to that, sir?
Sure.
I wanted to add just the whole idea around the courage for me as a young person, because we had boycotts also, but we were at the Woolworth store where, we couldn't sit at the bar. And so I remember right after that happening, it gave us the courage as young people to go and stand outside. So that was really powerful, because we saw the injustices, but it also gave us courage to say, here, we belong, we support what's going on, not support the beating, but supported what Congressman John Lewis and others were doing in the fight for justice.
All right, Mr. Evans, I'm gonna get with you as soon as we get back from break. I want to get as many voices with this iconic group of civil rights leaders that we have on this panel here right now. And again, folks who can share in the feeling that took place that day. We are talking this program is dedicated to the memory of Bloody Sunday, the brutal attack on peaceful demonstrators at the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, a moment that shocked the conscience of the nation and helped change the course of American history. We'll be back to continue this show on Remembering Bloody Sunday right after this.
How can I get myself?
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for this? This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the station that cares about our community. Right here. Yeah.
A new law is helping people save more money on prescription drug costs. You may also be able to save with Medicare's Extra Help program. Your premium cost can be zero when your out-of-pocket expenses are low. Who should apply? Single individuals earning less than $23,000 a year, or married couples earning less than $31,000 a year. Even if you don't think you qualify, you should still check out this program. Visit ssa.gov/extra help. Medicare costs are covered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hey y'all, it's Traffic Jam with Kareem.
Thursday at 4 p.m.
Hey, Traffic Jam. Rainier Avenue Radio. Download the app so you don't miss out what's popping with Crack with Shannon. It's your boy, Kareem the Dream, on another beautiful week on here on Traffic Jam in Seattle. I hope you guys doing what you're supposed to do, being you're supposed to be. I got a good show for y'all. A lot to talk about. Kareem the Dream, keep up with everything.
Get your entertainment news with Kareem on the Traffic Jam Thursday at 4 p.m.
The climate crisis is here, and communities most impacted are standing up. This is Earth Deserves More Than a Day, hosted by Rainier Avenue Radio and King County Parks. From elected officials to grassroots leaders, from river tours to cultural art, we gather to take action. Listen in. Learn more, then get involved, because the Earth can't
wait, and neither can we.
Happy Hump Day. We're excited that you decided to join us for the party. Fresh Juice is live Wednesday night, 9 to 11 p.m. Pacific time on Seattle's Rainier Avenue Radio with the Juice Pack, including me, Superstar TK, Pine Size Patron, and D-Money. We're going to chop it up with some cool people, play some really dope new hip-hop and R&B music, some games, and maybe even a live performance. Lock us in right now on Fresh Juice YouTube page at youtube.com/@Fresh Juice Media or subscribe to us on Spotify or Apple Music. Fresh Juice.
This winter, I don't want illness to get in the way of my holiday plan. That's why I got my annual flu and COVID shot. Everyone ages 6 months and older and get the flu and COVID shot each year. They make it less likely you'll get sick, and even if you do get infected, you won't get as sick. Free vaccines are available even if you don't have health insurance. For more information, visit kingcounty.gov/find-a-clinic. That's kingcounty.gov/find-a-clinic.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. I am your host of Street Beat, and we are talking about Bloody Sunday, March 7th, 1965. What we want to do here is connect that history to the present, because the struggle for voting rights, justice, and dignity did not end on that bridge. Joining me for this important conversation are Mr. Eddie Rye Jr., Mr. Hayward Evans, Mr. Claude Burfect, Ms. Payne, and Dr. Smith. And I think I was going to go to you, Mr. Evans, so that you could have your opportunity to chime in on that question about how did that brutalization of peaceful demonstrators shape the political consciousness, according to your perspective, of Black America?
You know, what I see, I was born and raised here in Seattle, right? And I would go to my uncle's house. Retired military, because most of the Black folks got here through the military. And he was a manager of Boeing, of all places, right? Boeing was very racist then. In fact, they were sued by the Black community, and the Black community won. But on that note, my uncle would say anything south of the Canadian border was the South. So that speaks to some of the challenges that we faced here in Seattle as well. But remembering Bloody Sunday, for me, it's not just history. It's really about the present conditions that are taking place in our nation. When you see aggressive government agencies taking advantage of vulnerable communities, when you see entities attempting to minimize or erase Black history, when you see these leaders trying to just sweep the history under the bus, it just reminds me that struggle for social justice is a continuation. And when I look at the people down in Selma, it just reminds me that democracy must be defended by every generation. And if you notice, the majority of the people in that march, in that 600-member march across Pettit Bridge, were young people. Most of them were teenagers, is what I've read. And again, Lewis was, 26 at the time? These were the leaders. And these are the people that we need to encourage, as like my past president at the NAACP, Carolyn Riley Payne, was saying. These are the people, and Dr. Smith, these are the people we have to go after now, embrace, and then put them in a leadership capacity and act as their primary advisors.
Dr. Smith, I'm going to direct this question to you initially, because when you first got on, you were talking about the Voting Rights Act. Why did it take such visible violence for the nation to finally act? And that may be something that for people who are here today, because you mentioned young folks, for them to process, something that should have been obvious. Why did it take such visible violence for this nation to finally act about voting rights? Dr. Smith? Oh, we may have lost Dr. Smith.
She's still on. She's muted, right? No, there she is.
Yeah, so I think it's the trajectory of life. There's the struggle, and then there's the victory, and so it's easy when things are undercover, when they're not seen. People continue to do what they do, and I think the reason that the struggle, the highlighting of the struggle, it opened, as I believe Mrs. Kane said earlier, it opened people's eyes. It opened up, the shapes their consciousness, because the consciousness is those who do these things are individuals who don't care about people. I mean, I can't name any other words around that. And so when you were taking it, for us to vote would mean that they would lose their power, their ability to be able to enslave and get free labor and abuse people. So the world would not have seen that had it not been violent. Because when it looked like things are going okay, people are silent. Dr. King, I remember his words, and he reminded us that in 1969, when he was talking to the Vietnam pastors regarding the Vietnam War, he said, silence is a betrayal of your soul. So I think the violence, unfortunately, had to be violence, but it really was a way of reawakening the conscience of humankind. And I think that's what's going on now. The things are sad that's happening, but it's reawakening, opening up people's consciousness about the reality of the underlying evil within our system and our world, of those who want to rule. And I'll just say, white supremacists, it's real.
And Ms. Payne, I'd like to get you in on this again. Same thing. Why did it take such visible violence for this nation to finally act?
I think because systems of power rarely gives up power voluntarily, because they think they're giving up something. You're taking something from them. And I think it was that way because they saw that, or they thought that they were going to lose something. They were going to lose the power. They were going to lose, and so they were holding on, and they holding on because all of this goes back to economics. So when you think about it, if you it's economic power. The segregation system gave them something, and the system is not just an attitude. So I think that Jim Crow it wasn't accidental. They were doing all of those things to hold on to what they perceived as their power, and what they perceived as having something that nobody else had, that Black people.
And I mentioned. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can now. Hello.
Tony B.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just like to interject. This is so significant because of the threat to our voting rights today. We have got to let people know, especially younger people, know what African Americans had to go through to even get the right to vote. Now, I spent the first 10 years of my life in Shreveport, Louisiana. Born in Charity Hospital, the colored side, went to West Shreveport, colored elementary school. My father was designated by A. Philip Randolph in 1948 to be the Northwest organizer for the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the only union that a Black man could, it wasn't letting women in, but a Black man could join. But it's just real significant to keep our history out in front of everybody. March 7th was the most significant day in voting rights history for African Americans out of any and all dates. And once again, I say that because it was televised, the brutality on the Evan Pettus Bridge against Black folks went around the world. It was an embarrassment to this country. But once again, a lot of people are removing anything about Black history. That's why it's incumbent upon us to make sure that Black history and the truth stays before the people, and encourage our folks. I know that Carolyn Riley Payne worked with a lot of young folks in the NAACP AXO. But we need to get her to go back. I know she didn't quit, but we got to just keep this before our young folks, before our Black student unions, before our church organizations. Because, our meeting places were the churches. Okay, so we really need, like Reverend Dr. Linda indicated earlier, we really need to get our clergy involved because they're on the front lines of this whole thing. And I think about Julian Bond, who was a couple of years older than John Lewis, Stokely Carmichael. Those guys were in their 20s. And so, and they were out front. Older Black folks, if they got out there, they would lose their jobs. But some people, like Julian Bond said, sometimes you just don't have to give a damn to do the right thing. So,
my guests again, as we reflect and remember our Bloody Sunday, Mr. Eddie Rye Jr. and Mr. Hayward Evans, Mr. Claude Burfict, Dr. Smith, and Carolyn Riley Payne. This is a question that I have for each of you. Again, as we're reflecting on what Bloody Sunday meant then and what it demands of us now. And again, this is a question for each of you. When we look at modern voter suppression efforts, what are the parallels that you see that are similar to the conditions that led to Bloody Sunday, if there are any, or do you see them?
Yeah, we can just look at what's going on in terms of gerrymandering. When you have people trying to redesign their states so that they have their own voting blocks, and if you look at some of those maps, they're just all over the place. There's no systematic process in place that represents the entire nation. And you see that they're trying to orchestrate this design. And when the John Lewis Voting Rights Act failed and it was filibustered out of the Senate, that sent a clear message. They don't want to enforce voters' rights. And as Claude alluded to earlier, where you would have to go and people would have to sit down and try to take a test or whatever. And now they're talking about, well, you're going to have to bring ID to get a voter's card. They're doing everything they can to suppress. They want to pull the records. And one of my biggest fears is that the president is going to use his ICE at the election and send them to the various voting areas, particularly in cities where you have large Democratic populations. And they're going to try to control the people getting there to put in their ballot, but also the collection and counting of the ballots. To me, that's a serious fear.
I'd like to get someone else to chime in on this. Again, we're talking with iconic civil rights leaders who experienced and lived through this. So if we're connecting then to now, and we look at modern voter suppression efforts, what are the parallels that you see in the conditions that led to Bloody Sunday that may exist now? Or do you see any? And again, this is open to the entire group here.
Well, I think what Mr. Evans said, and also one of the things that you see is, that threat and that fear, but also not allowing, I've heard of places where they're not allowed people to have restroom breaks or even have water. All of those things are fear tactics to stop people from voting. So, and like you say, I expect that they'll use ICE to intimidate people. The whole thing around ID, about having you need a birth certificate or a passport. I mean, think about it. How many people have a passport? So there are a lot of tactics that are and fear that they're creating, and it makes people easy to say, "Well, I just won't vote. I'll just sit home and not do it." So, as Mr. Rice said earlier, churches was really a great place of assembly where they would take people, truckloads of people or busloads of people to voting booths. So there was a sense of protection and security. And it almost seems like that's what we need to start to do again. So thank you.
Dr. Smith, thank you. Mr. Burfict, we just haven't heard from you for a while. I do want to hear from everyone. Again, I'm sorry to hear about what you had to endure personally. But the same question for you, when we look at these modern voter suppression tactics and efforts, do you see any conditions that led to Bloody Sunday? And what would you say about these modern voter suppression tactics and efforts?
Well, what I saw is the fact that, and everybody should realize that during that time, Jim Crow was a sophisticated form of slavery. and they wanted, and I know they wanted to keep us enslaved, and in doing so, they took, they didn't want us to have that voting right. Now, one of the things that Carolyn Raleigh Payne and I did when she was the president and I was the first vice president is to organize get folks organized as far as voter registration, getting people aware of what's going on as far as voting is concerned. Having that franchise right is one of the most important rights you have. And for them to want to take that away from us is symbolic of what they did back in before John Lewis. So we need to make the young folks consciously aware of the importance of that franchise right, so that and the importance of not just having that franchise right, but getting out there to vote. We need to exercise that franchise right. So I think it's important, and then we can talk about John Lewis, and John Lewis and I were a member of SNCC back in the early 60s. And I met him, and I know all about John Lewis and the voters' rights, but the fact is we need to make sure that we have that right. They're trying to take it away from us. We need to be able to make sure that these young folks is conscious of what's going on as well, so that we don't lose what we, as far as Bloody Sunday is concerned, if we don't do something, we're going to lose that. Right. And that effort of Bloody Sunday is for naught.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Payne, I would like to go to you now as we're moving forward, and again, as we're remembering Bloody Sunday. How can everyday people, not just activists, honor Bloody Sunday in meaningful ways?
Well, first of all, you can talk about it so it won't be forgotten. You can teach ourselves. I won't just say our young people, but teach ourselves about it. Remind us what it's about. Why did we have it? Why did we have such violence? Disruption always brings about a change. And so I think that that's part of what we have to do, is to remember. And then we have to teach ourselves, reteach ourselves as old as the seniors, so that our youth will know. Our youth doesn't know because we haven't trained them. We don't show them, and they don't see it. They don't understand it. And so I think that that's one of the most important things that we can do. We can start having conversations like this with them, meaning young people involved, and let them see the correlation between what's going on in their lives and what's going on now. It's just, when we were growing up and doing this, when it first started, it was, everybody knew their place and all of that. And so you just kind of went along with it, I think, until Bloody Sundays, and it was a moral consciousness that had to be brought up and brought to the forefront. And I think that that's what some of the same things we have to do now, because we're not, as Eddie or someone said, our youth are not being taught, they don't understand it. They have privileges that some of us never had. And so, and they take that for granted. They don't see the connection between the shoulders that they're standing on, the people that got hit in the head, and all of the things, walking and going across the bridge. They don't see the young people in that. They don't see the young people that was leading that. What they see as the older generation, because that's who's talking about it. And say they don't realize that how young all of those, including Martin Luther King and everybody, how young they were. Because because we are not making that connection. And we know that young people run revolutions. And we know that young people are the ones that can bring about the change, but we wouldn't have been able to do it had we not had leaders helping us and teaching us. And that's what we have to do.
Mr. Rye, I want to get that same question to you. How can everyday people, not just activists, honor Bloody Sunday? And what are the ways and the meaningful ways that you would suggest that people do this?
First of all, I would suggest they watch this broadcast and broadcasts like this, because we're hearing from people who are out there, who participated, like Mr. Claude Burfict, who went through all the demonstrations. And I had the privilege of knowing both John Lewis and Julian Bond for quite a while. Julian Bond was the chair of the board of SNCC. So I got some firsthand information. I can remember Lady J. Brisker was talking about when they were protesting in front of Lester Maddox's restaurant, how they were attacked with white men with axe handles. And EJ said, I ducked and Julian got hit. But I mean, those guys were really, really young. And I can recall like what happened at the University of Washington with the BSU out there years ago when the BSU took over the president's office to get more black students in the university, more black faculty and administration. So hopefully, and then I have to think about the young leaders of the Black Panther Party when they first started, Aaron and Elmer Dixon, that, you know, led something. They have the only medical clinic that the Panthers had still open today. So there's a lot that can be done. And I really try to communicate. My daughter used to be a young leader. She got mentored by Carolyn Riley Payne, was involved with AXO. Now she's middle-aged, but she mentors young folks every summer, 25 to 30, and most of them involved on the staffs of members of the Congressional Black Caucus. So those are the kind of things we can do. We have to make sure we promote this broadcast so people can actually see and hear from folks who are out there. So I think it's very significant to have this kind of program so people can access this and hear from experienced people who experienced the brutality, who witnessed it. And I think that's very, very important. And then we turn right back around and let them see what today is bringing with the all-out efforts to suppress our vote. And, you know, we saw a good thing just recently in Dallas where they changed things around and people didn't know where they're supposed to vote. So we have to be diligent and just make sure that we keep talking. And it's very, very important for this message to come from the pulpits across Washington State and across America. So thank you.
I do want to give everybody the opportunity for final words here as we pause, we remember, and we reflect on this program that is dedicated to the memory of Bloody Sunday, the brutal attack on peaceful demonstrators on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. But I do want to ask this question, and it's open to everybody or anybody. What responsibility do Black media outlets and community storytellers have in keeping this history alive?
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
we need more people like you doing what you're doing. We need to be talking about this in every court, in every situation. We ought to be having some type of every program we have, somebody ought to be saying something about this, what has gone on in the past, to help us understand, and so we won't forget, and so we can remember.
Yeah, and I want to agree with that. Agree with the fact that we need to keep it like I've heard some of my colleagues say this morning. You know, keeping it before as many avenues as we can to educate, making sure that we're connecting with our younger people in schools and you know, places where they frequent, and to talk about the importance of voting letting them know that certainly they would not be where they are today had it not been for the sacrifices of those such as Congressman Lewis and others who continue to do it. And one final thing I want to add is that we as Black people, I'm not talking about anybody else, but we have Black people, we have to regain our collective power. We have to regain our collective power. It's no longer about me, but it's about the collective power of the whole, for our whole community. And so it's okay to have our individual things going on, whatever we call them. But the bottom line is collectively, we are a powerful group of people.
Thank you so much. We are almost out of time here. This has just been a wonderful conversation. Thank each of you for what you've done, what you've
If I just may make.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Tony, if I just can make an announcement. Again, Hayward Evans, Eddie Rye Jr. and I co-convened the Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Committee. And on April 4th, which is the day that Dr. King was assassinated, we have an annual Day of Remembrance event. So I'm saying look forward to all the Black media outlets, at least, that we're going to be having a program again on April 4th, Day of Remembrance, to remember the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, but also all the other people who sacrificed themselves in the civil rights struggle who are no longer with us. And a lot of them get lost to the ages. We want to make sure that they're remembered as well, because that's significant to our history. And again, on that note of encouraging, we need to encourage these young people to come out and vote and understand the historical sacrifices. But April 4th, Day of Remembrance.
April 4th, Day of Remembrance. Okay, I want to give everybody maybe 30 seconds. We're almost out of time, but I would like to hear everybody's voice. Your just final commentary, your final thoughts that you would like to share, that you would like to leave with the audience that is watching, in some cases listening to this broadcast right now. Dr. Smith, I'm going to start with you. Whatever those final words are that you would like to share with our audience, floor is yours.
Well, my final comments is we are the change the world needs. I think I'll just leave it at that. We are the change that the world needs, and we have the power to do it.
Okay. Mr. Perfect, I'd like to get final commentary and thoughts and words from you about Bloody Sunday, about the remembrance, about your own experiences, whatever you'd like to say.
Bloody Sunday was a very significant day, and I think that you continue doing what you're doing, and I think that the Black ministers, when I grew up, the Black ministers was the most important people in the community, and they guided us. And I think we need more guidance also from our Black ministers here in the area.
Thank you. And Ms. Carolyn Riley Payne, again, thank you for everything that you've done in support of our communities. Opportunity for you to share whatever you'd like to share with those who are listening or watching right now.
Well, I agree with what everybody else has said about the need for us to get out there. I know we're tired and all of that, but it's time. The time is now. The televised violence of the Civil Rights Act and going across the Petit Ridge was to raise the consciousness of this nation. And because of that, you know, when you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. We've heard that so many times. And so I think that we need to make sure that we know our history, we understand it, because it makes people then, gives us a sense of empowerment, and it gives us a sense of belonging and connecting. And that's what we have to do. We have to do more of that. We have to do more connecting to each other. So my final word would be, all of us, let's embrace our young people, just embrace each other, and let's continue the dialogue, because we do not want to forget. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to be on your show.
Oh, my pleasure. And Mr. Evans, final words from you.
For me, I'll be brief. Look, democracy must be defended by every generation. Every generation needs to defend this democracy. And as we say at the Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Committee, show up, stand up, speak up for your rights.
Okay. And Mr. Eddie Rye Jr., final words.
Co-convener of the Seattle MLK Commemoration Committee, Hayward Evans just echoed our motto: show up, stand up, speak up against racism, and make damn sure that you register and vote.
And vote. That's it. That's right.
On behalf of all of my guests who are joining me as we remember Bloody Sunday, as we close today, remember that Bloody Sunday, March 7th, 1965, was not just a moment in history. It was a moral reckoning on that Edmund Pettus Bridge. Ordinary people made an extraordinary choice to stand for dignity, for the right to vote, and for the future generations that they would never even meet. We honor the courage of those marchers and the leadership of John Lewis, who reminded us that democracy is not self-executing. It demands participation, it demands sacrifice, and sometimes good trouble. Remembering Bloody Sunday is not about looking back with nostalgia, it's about looking forward with responsibility. The question is not what did they endure, the question is what will we do with what they won. May we carry Selma in our hearts, truth in our voices, and justice in our actions. And may we continue to cross our own bridges together. It's me, Tony B. Thank you for listening. And remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.
Thank you.